3 weeks in, and the ACC looks completely different than what everyone expected.
You are Locked On Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Locked On Clemson podcast. I'm your host, John Bivens. You can follow us over on Twitter at I am John Bivens. We are a credentialed media member of Clemson baseball, basketball, and football. Thanks so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen every day. We appreciate our everydayers joining us, growing this community, being part of what's growing here on Locked On Clemson. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. After you listen to this podcast, make sure you go check out one of the other 200 plus shows from the Locked On Podcast Network. Here on Locked On Clemson, you're getting all sports, all passion, and all the time, where we're bringing you everything you need to know regarding Clemson sports. Today is Monday, September 16th. Bright and early, we're coming to you talking about the state of the ACC, talking about this crucial game coming up Saturday, and then we're going to end the episode talking about the grading the Tigers so far through this season. We got a great episode for you today. It is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Make sure if you're running behind or feeling a little drained, pick up a 5 Hour Energy to get that energy boosting, give you the energy you need to get through the day. Go to 5hourenergy.com to order all different kinds of packs. 3 weeks in, and the ACC is completely different than what everyone has expected. Walking into this season, when you looked at ACC rankings and predictions for the ACC, you saw a vast, very large majority of people picking Florida State Seminoles to easily win the conference this year. A lot of people had Clemson and FSU. They were 1 and 2 in a lot of rankings. Most people put FSU at 1. And then 3 through 5 were pretty unanimously Louisville, Miami, and NC State in some order. Some people had NC State third. Some people had Miami third. A lot of that, we had Miami third. We had Miami, then Louisville, then NC State. If you watched our preseason ranking show where we were joined with Michael from Duke Blue Central, and we had Anthony over, the Wolfpack fan. We had them on, and we all predicted it. They had FSU 1, NC State 2, and then Clemson or Miami 3. Both of them had Clemson at 4. So very different rankings, right? These rankings, what originally came out, were very different than what we're seeing. Right now, through 3 weeks of the season, 2 weeks for Clemson, we are seeing a very different result. As it's sitting right now, what is right now, there's a lot of teams playing well. There is Miami, California, UNC, Pittsburgh, and Duke. Those 5 ACC schools are the only ACC schools that are left unbeaten. When you look at them, Miami played a tough challenge week 1 against Florida and really beat them in the swamp pretty handedly. California hadn't really played anybody. UNC hasn't really played anybody. They beat Minnesota after losing their starting quarterback for the year, but then they've had 2 smaller games. Pittsburgh hadn't played anybody big yet. Duke hasn't had a huge season either. We're really undoubtedly what's going on there. And then after those, Louisville sits at 2-0, so they're unbeaten as well, but they've only played 2 games, so 6 unbeaten teams. We've got a couple teams at 2-1, NC State, SMU, and Virginia Tech. And then we have Clemson and Stanford sitting at 1-1, Wake Forest 1-2, and then the only team that has not won a game this season, the only team, was the one that was predicted to win the conference, FSU. What is going on with the Seminoles? I am flabbergasted. I am just shocked at what's going on right now. FSU is struggling. I mean, hardcore struggling. When you look at their schedule, they open up the season with back-to-back ACC conference games. Start off the season against Georgia Tech and Ireland, where they were heavily favored. That game came down. Georgia Tech stuck with them the entire game. That was in week 0 of the college football on the 24th. The first game of the college football season in the nation. And what happened was Georgia Tech stuck with them. DJU couldn't put them away. Had 193 passing yards, his lowest of the season so far. And Georgia Tech kicked a field goal to win it at the end. It was a game that shocked the nation. It shocked the world because Florida State was playing in Ireland, right? But Georgia Tech just completely won that. They came back and played the Nets Monday. So they played the last game of the week for week 1 of the season. And they played Boston College. And this game was at home, playing at Florida State. And really Boston College just completely shocked everybody. They came through and they dominated, really. There wasn't much question in this game. At the beginning, there was a little bit, but everyone expected Florida State. All right, they lost a big game in Ireland to start the season. The last season, end of the season, where they didn't get in the playoffs, it was hurting them. Still getting over that Georgia loss, having a new quarterback, having pretty much a new team with all the transfers they have. It was just them getting it under the wing. So they thought Boston College game was going to be a rebound. That wasn't the case. It came out to be Boston College showed up. Bill O'Brien completely showed up in his Boston College debut, head coach over there. Played really well, and Boston College beat them 28-13. DJU, 272 yards. Memphis, then they came up this past Saturday, yesterday, or 2 days ago, and they played Memphis. And this game was a game where they had a chance. They had every chance in the world to win this game, and they couldn't do it. They had the last drive, couldn't score, lost 20-12. This is one we predicted that game. We 100% predicted Memphis to win that. You can check us. You can check that and prove that by joining our ESPN game picks, our weekly pick'ems for the ESPN. We have a group, Locked on Clemson. You can join that. Just search Locked on Clemson. You can join that group. There's not a password. The best winning percentage of that group is going to win a prize. We're going to give out prizes to the top 3 people in that league. So go ahead and join that. It's not too late. As long as you compete in the majority of the season, the prizes go out to the best winning percentage. They don't just go out to the most wins, because obviously if you miss a week or two, that's going to hurt you. But it's going out as long as you participate in the majority of games throughout the season. You get the highest winning percentage. You are absolutely valid for a win, valid for a prize. So join that. We'll have the link in the episode description below. But anyway, Memphis, they have a great quarterback who's absolutely great. He should be playing the NFL soon. They came out and won. I'm very torn on my FSU predictions. I'm very torn on what's going on. On one hand, I love to see the Seminoles losing. I think everyone thought their coach was going to take over Dabo as being the best coach in the ACC. Right now, Bill O'Brien is looking more dominant than what he can. FSU has 3 0-3 starts in their career, in the history of FSU. And the head coach right now, Mike, has 2 of them. He has 2 0-3 starts. Even last year going undefeated, 2 0-3 starts. I love to see that. I love to see FSU losing. But I will be honest, I'm kind of torn on whether or not I can celebrate this 0-3 start, because I think, 1, it's negative for Clemson. It hurts Clemson them being bad. And 2, I really hate it for DJU. How it's negative for Clemson is when it gets down for playoff contention, when it gets down to playoff decision, say Clemson goes well and loses in the ACC championship game, we need whoever we play there to have a dominant season. We need the ACC to look really strong, so our good schedule, if we have a good record by then, a 1-loss, 2-loss season, looks really good beating tough opponents. Say even if we face Miami or Louisville or Pittsburgh in the ACC championship game, if the ACC looks weak, they're not going to put a second school in for an at-large big other than the ACC champion. So we need Florida State to be looking well. And a team that was favored to win the conference coming out 0-3, that's rough. That's hard. When you're looking at their schedule, they have California next. They could lose that game. California's playing well right now. Then they go to at SMU, who's got a good quarterback, but they could win that game. Then they go to Clemson and play at Clemson to start October. There's a very real world where they start the season 1-5. For the leader of the ACC, supposedly leader of the ACC, to be going 1-5, oh, that hurts. That hurts Clemson a lot. And then I also don't like it because I like DJU. Look, he tricked Clemson. He did. Everyone thought he was the next Trevor Lawrence, and he laid an egg. He transferred out because he knew Cade Klubnik had his spot. Played well at the Oregon State, and I wished him success at Oregon State. Now he's back at FSU, and I didn't like he come to FSU. I thought it was kind of a poor move going back to an in-conference rival. Someone that is competing against Clemson for the top of the conference, that kind of vibe. I didn't like that move, but I still wished him success. He's a class act. I love how supportive his family is, even though a lot of Clemson fans seem to not like Big Dave. But I wished him success. So I'm torn on this FSU thing. I like that they're losing. I love seeing the FSU lose, but it hurts Clemson in the long run, and especially if we lose to them, which if we lose to them how they're playing, different conversation. But I also wish it better for DJU. But overall, ACC looks wild right now. You got teams playing well that you didn't expect. Boston College looks really well that no one's expected. I really thought they were going to win this past season, but they didn't. FSU, or this past week, FSU looks bad. Miami looks the favorite right now. Cam Ward is playing out of his mind. They've had one kind of challenge, so we'll see if that continues throughout the season. If Clemson faces them, it'll be in the ACC championship game. We're not on the schedule for them. Pittsburgh looks great. I think right now our hardest game of the season is probably at Miami in the late October. But Pittsburgh looks really well. That could be a challenge for them. Sorry, we don't play I had that a little bit wrong, but we don't play Miami. I think our toughest challenge, let me correct that. Our toughest challenge, what I was saying, is our toughest challenge is going to be play when we play Pittsburgh. We don't play Miami this season unless it's an ACC championship. But if we get to play that Pittsburgh game, that's probably going to be the hardest game left on our schedule. South Carolina looks good. I think that'll be a tough game for them. But Clemson has a route to get to the ACC championship game. The question is going to be, can the ACC look strong? Because really, for Clemson's resume getting in the playoffs, if we don't win the ACC championship game, we need a strong ACC. We need to come from a conference with multiple really good teams. And it's not starting to look that way like that's going to be the case. But with ACC play kicking off this week for Clemson, it's important to look back and see what Clemson has done recently. It's important for us to kind of look and see how important it is for Clemson to win this game against NC State. Because let's be real, we didn't start the season. We didn't start ACC playoff really strong last year. In fact, it was really, really weak starting at 0-2. So this game against NC State coming up Saturday as Clemson kicks off ACC play, it's going to be a huge deal for the Tigers. College football is officially back, and it's going strong. NFL's kicking off going well. Hashtag FlyBergsFly. And I am watching all kinds of sport. Make sure you grab a 5-hour energy shot to stay alert with all your favorite games if you're watching as much sports as I am. Even maybe some of those late night games going to overtime, the next morning, 5-hour energy gets you alert and gets you going for a busy day. With zero sugar, a convenient portable size, it is the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. The 5-hour energy website has flavors galore. It has my favorite watermelon, has tropical burst, grape, berry. Berry used to be my favorite, but I tried that watermelon. But there is so much flavor for everybody. Try them all. On the site, you even have the option to build your own 12-pack or 24-pack. You choose the flavors, and it's delivered right to your door. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5energy.com, get some 5-hour energy product today. You can use my promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. This game on Saturday against NC State is a crucial win for the Clemson Tigers. When you look back to last year, and I know last year hurt, right? I know last year was a hard one to kind of process, but we got to look back at it. We didn't start ACC playoff strong. We opened up the season at Duke against Duke in a game that we were heavily favored, and we laid an egg. We had turnover after turnover, after missed field goal, after missed field goal, after turnover, after poor performance. It was a terrible outing for Clemson. We ended up losing that game 7-28. It wasn't that big of a loss. They scored a couple touchdowns late that were really trash time, but we lost 7-28. It was ugly. We followed that up with two non-conference games, winning big, 66-17, 48-14. And then we played our second conference game in week 4 against the Florida State Seminoles. That game, I'm still hurting. Like, I thought I could talk about this, but I'm still bothered by that. That was an overtime game against a really good team, FSU, last year. Very different team than this year, as we just talked about. But very good team, and Clemson had every chance to win. It was at Clemson. They were up. They had a chance to win. They had every chance to win possible. Win into overtime. It ended with in overtime, we had a backup cornerback with Nate Wiggins getting hurt in the game. Had a backup cornerback guarding their star wide receiver. The wide receiver just blew right by him on the second play in overtime, and they scored a touchdown. Clemson got the ball, and Cade Klubnik made a bad pass. Had an easy receiver and overthrew him, and then he made a poor read later on. Then we made some bad play calls that shouldn't have been happening. It was ugly. So we lost in overtime after not being able to score. That game hurt. that game was one like, did we really just drop that? So we started the season last year 0-2 in the ACC. Then it looked like we were back to winning. We won against Syracuse. We won against Wake Forest. And then we went down to Miami. The Miami team that doesn't really have home field advantage because their stadium is is far away from their campus. They play at Miami Gardens in Florida, and that one went into double overtime. We had every chance to win that game, and we lost 28-20. Tough game, real hard to lose that. So then we were sitting at 2-3 in the ACC. So what do we do after that? We travel to Raleigh 2 weeks later after a bye week to play NC State, and we lose to NC State. Last year, we started 2-4 in the ACC, a conference that we have dominated as of late. Yeah, we haven't won it in a couple years, but there was a long type period of time where we won it every year, and we started 2-4. It hurt. I don't know about y'all, but I still, like you just saw, I still get hurt watching this. After that NC State game, we did end the season very strongly on 5 straight wins, beat Notre Dame, beat Georgia Tech, beat North Carolina, beat South Carolina, and then beat Kentucky in a great fourth quarter by Cade in the bowl game. But overall, we started the ACC poorly last year. Clemson cannot afford to do that. We've already lost the game this season, losing to Georgia, which honestly, forget about the score and the outcome of that game. If we're looking at a record, a lot of people expected our record to be what it is right now, 1-1. We're heading into NC State on a high note. In the later segment, we're going to talk about how we're graded pretty highly if you look at our players and our different positional groups. But got a little hiccups going. But the NC State game this Saturday, we're heading into it where we're expected to be. We need a win here. We really need to go out and win against NC State because this is a game where we have a chance to correct what happened last year. We have a chance to correct the poor performances. We have a chance to correct the bad outings, the upsetness, all that 2-4 start, that 0-2 start in the ACC against Duke, that loss that we shouldn't have had, the 2 overtime games that we lost that we should have won. We have a chance to put that in the rearview mirror if we can come out this year and start off against a crucial win against the Wolfpack. When you look at the history, Clemson easily has the history against NC State. When you compare the two schools, all-time record, national championships, conference championships, bowl games, all-time wins, bowl record, All-Americans, NFL picks, first-round picks, weeks in the AP poll, weeks at number 1 in the AP poll. Clemson beats NC State at every single metric when you compare them. The only one we don't beat them is Heisman winners, where we both have 0. And then if you look to head-to-head record, Clemson has won so many more games. Clemson's won 60 games. NC State has won 30. They have 1 tie. It's historically, we dominate this team. Past couple years, we've kind of alternated wins. If it keeps up the pattern, we'll win this game. If it keeps that pattern up, they haven't beat us back-to-back in a long time. The last time the NC State beat us back-to-back games was in 2002, 2003. It's been that long since they beat us back-to-back. Clemson, on the other hand, we've went on some stretches. We've went on to a 7-game win streak and an 8-game win streak. We won 7 games in a row, 2004 to 2010, and then 8 games in a row, 2012 to 2019. So Clemson, the history is there. Honestly, NC State's not playing well. They've had a couple close games against teams that they shouldn't have. Got absolutely demolished by Tennessee. They looked almost worse against Tennessee than we did Georgia. With everything being the case it is, Clemson looks good heading into NC State, but this game is crucial. Got to be a must-win. Dabo says every game's a must-win. The biggest game is the next one. Well, the biggest game is here. We've got to win this game on Saturday against the Wolfpack. But with that game being so important, it helps to know where we stand so far. And according to 24/7 Sports, this team is rated highly, graded very highly as we're 2 weeks into the season.
Jarvis Davis here for FanDuel. You heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So guess what? I'm about to tell you a little bit more. We got a little something just for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. It doesn't matter if you're a fan of the Atlanta Falcons, the Carolina Panthers, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Las Vegas Raiders. It doesn't matter because guess what? With a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. Yes, every regular season out-of-market game. That is so dope. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. So just visit fanduel.com/lockedon. That's fanduel.com/lockedon, and make sure you download America's #1 sportsbook.
After a 1-1 start, some people are still really low on this Clemson team, but according to 24/7 Sports, this team is rated very highly. Look, Clemson had the game against Georgia. We still got to talk about it some, but it was a pitiful performance. Didn't score a touchdown, completely underwhelmed. This offense was nothing compared to what everyone talked about this offense going to look like. But we went on. Next week, we dominated against App State, a team that people are sleeping on, but are going to be a good team this year. One of the best group of 5 teams. They're an FBS team, not FCS. They're FBS, one of the best teams in the group of 5. 24/7 has gone through and they have graded each of the positional groups for Clemson so far in the season, and they've graded them really highly. When they looked at the quarterbacks, they talked about Cade Klubnik's underwhelming performance in week 1, but then talked about his breakout performance in week 2, and that's exactly what it was. It was a breakout performance, throwing for almost 400 yards, throwing for 5 touchdowns, rushing in 2 touchdowns, all in one half. There's only 2 incompletions were both where he threw the ball away. That's it. He went 24 for 26. 2 incompletions were throwing the ball away because he didn't have anybody open. That's a performance in one half. That performance alone put him in the Heisman conversation. He's not in the top 5, but he is in top 10 and projected for the Heisman odds. That performance skyrocketed his credibility. People are buying stock on Cade now. With that being the case, they looked at him. They looked at CV as he got in the game against App State, and they rated our quarterback sitting at a B+. Much different than what it's been the past 3 years. It's good to see that B+ there. They've rated him in the C's, a couple times in the D for the quarterback group in the past couple years. So sitting 2 weeks in, rated the quarterbacks B+. Looking at the running backs, man, they know what we all know. Phil Maffa, a great running back, easily going to carry us through. Then they got Keith Adams, who is going to be great. He was supposed to be our RB2. He's looking like he's RB3. Jay Haynes is showing glimpses of greatness off the bench, being a great number 2 option. Got a couple guys on the bench. You got Jarvis Green, who's finally back practicing. David Easy-E, as Clemson calls him, seems to be doing well. Now, I think they'll have more of an impact next season, especially with Phil gone. But they rated our running backs at an A-. Our wide receivers, there is a lot of talk about Clemson wide receivers. You got Bryant Wesco. How much is he going to start? TJ Moore, what is his impact going to be? Tyler Brown, been kind of quiet so far. Adam Randall, Cole Turner, Antonio Williams, Troy Stellato. We've got a crowded but talented wide receiver room. Underwhelming in week 1, played really well in week 2. They rated him a B+ as well there. Tight ends, man, we've got one of the best tight end groups in the nation, and 24/7 knows it. Jake Brenningstool should be on everybody's list for top tight end in the nation. There's not many people that are better than him. He's excellent. Hadn't had a lot of stats so far, but he's had a couple good highlight plays there. I said he didn't have a lot of stats, but even with that, he's still leading the team in touchdown catches and in overall catches as a whole. I think that's because of our crowded wide receiver room, a lot of people to get action. Plus, week 1 really didn't have anybody get stats. Week 2, we had so many people play at the wide receiver spot. It makes sense why he's there. But our wide receivers are playing really well. We got a nice backup with Olsen Pat Henry. I think he's going to be really good. And then we got 2 young guys as well, Marcus Dixon, Christian Betancourt, that I think are going to be great for the future. But they graded our tight ends as an A. Perhaps the most impressive one for me, and also for for Clemson 24/7, is our offensive line. Matt Luke has truly come in and changed this offensive line. Last year, there was doubts, there was question marks. Now we're coming in, and this is one of our strong points on our team. Blake Miller's been great. Tristan Lee's been great. Marcus Tate's been great. Colin Sadler's been great. Walker Parks is healthy, and he's great. The biggest story and what everyone's talking about is Ryan Lithicum. Everyone doubted if he was going to come in and play great after Will Putnam graduated and been our senior or starting center for so long. Ryan Lithicum came in and performed well and kind of lived above, exceeded expectations at the offensive line spot, at that center spot. Our offensive line's been really good. They handled themselves well against Georgia. I know we didn't get much rush yards, but I thought they handled that blitz really well, especially in that first half against Georgia. it's time to continue growing on that. Matt Luke's done great. They graded our offensive line as an A. Now moving to the defensive side, and this is where Clemson thrives. We all know it. They rated our defensive linemen an easy A. Obviously, so much talent there. Peter Woods, TJ Parker, Devontae Capehart, Peyton Page is even playing well. Our defensive line is one of our strongest points on the entire team, playing really well there. They got an A. Our linebackers are playing good. Kind of took a big hit this week with Kobe McLeod out for the season, but Wade Woodaz is playing out of his mind. He's been my surprise player. I thought he's going to be good. I did not know he's going to be as good as he's been playing. Barrett Carter's been playing well. I haven't been 24/7 said they haven't been overly impressed. I would agree with that. He's kind of been quiet so far, but I think he's warming up. He'll start playing well. He'll start being more of the standout guy we know him to be. But with losing Trotter to the NFL draft last year, it was a big hurt, kind of a question mark or linebacker, but Barrett Carter, Wade Woodaz, they are carrying this crowd really, really well. They rated them a B+. Secondary, this is one that everyone thought we should be good, but there was some question marks with losing Nate Wiggins to a first-round draft pick last year. Avian Terrell has been locked down. I mean, locked down. He's going to be an NFL player nonstop, and he's only a sophomore, and he's playing as good as he is. Really great there. Jaden Lucas, I thought have been really good. His open field tackling has surprised me dramatically. Shelton Lewis, I'm worried about him. I'm worried. He seems slow. He seems like he might need a little bit more. I know he had the injury, and it might just seem like he might not be ready there yet. But we have other people there. Ashton Hampton's playing well as a freshman. Khalil Barnes at safety. 24/7's not high on Khalil Barnes. I am very much so. I'm high on this guy. I think he's going to be great. Kylan Griffin, I like. I'm not a big fan. Tyler Venables, I love him as a guy. I'm not a big fan. Don't have a lot of confidence in him. Same with 24/7. They agree with me there. But then RJ Mickens there too, and he's doing well at the nickel position. Overall, they rated him a B+, and I thought that was there. I probably would rate him a B so far, just because I thought, and we talked about this a little bit, I don't think our defense have showed a complete game yet. I think our safeties and our secondary is a part of that. Georgia kind of got blew up in the second half. App State, that second quarter was rough, so I'd probably give our secondary a B. 24/7 gives a B+. And then special teams, man, I'd give them an A+ right now. I'm high on special teams. Maybe it's because of last year, the disappointment, the hurt that was there from all the missed field goal. But Nolan Hauser, true freshman, has came in and been amazing. He's gone through. He's went 2 for 2 for field goals, 9 for 9 on extra points. So, yeah, one was a doink. One bounced in off the field goal post and then went in. He made it. He's 9 for 9. So celebrating that's something we literally did not have last year. Aiden Swanson, there's not a lot of people in the nation that are high on him. I like him. I think he's consistent. I don't think you have to worry about mishaps from him. There's never going to, I don't think, knock on wood, there's never going to be like a mishap or a terrible snap by him. He's not going to be punting it for 60 yards every time, but he'll get it over 50. He'll average over 40 every time. He's a solid guy there. And Robert Gunn, he might not be our field goal kicker, but he's doing great kicking off on kickoffs. He's got 7 of his 13 kickoffs so far has been touchbacks, which is impressive. They rated him an A-. I would give him an A+ just for the field goals alone. But that's where our team's ranked right now. Sitting at 2 weeks with our lowest positional rankings being a B+, and there's multiple of those with our secondary, our linebackers, and our wide receivers. Man, you got to be positive about that. You got to feel really good about where we're at right now. A couple A's there with tight ends getting an A, offensive lines getting an A, defensive lines getting an A, and then you got an A- at running back. I think you've got to feel really good about where Clemson's grading right now. 24/7 grades them high. I grade them high. Everyone should feel really good right now with Clemson's odd heading into a weaker ACC and not even a hard ACC schedule compared to some other people's schedule, but should be great. I think we have a great spot. There's a lot of excitement to be had about the Clemson Tigers right now. But with all that being said, that is going to wrap up this edition of the Locked On Clemson podcast. Thanks so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen today. Now go check out Locked On College Football Podcast. From NIL deals to never-ending conference realignment rumors, Spencer McCaughlin gets you up to date on an exciting college football game. You can find the link to that podcast down in the description, so you don't need to search. It is part of the Locked On podcast, your team every day. Later this week, we're going to dive more into stats about the NC State, more into what we need to see from Clemson football, and we'll branch out to a couple other sports a couple times. But we are back to our regular schedule. I know the past couple weeks we've been off schedule a little bit. I apologize for that. We are back to posting every day up first thing in the morning, so it can be your first listen every day. Make sure you join our Locked On Insider program. You text Clemson to 864-252-1907. If you haven't, make sure you're subscribed, whether you listen audio format, subscribe where you're listening, or over on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. That way, this can be your first listen every day. We can't wait to see you on tomorrow's episode, but until then, keep that Tiger pride alive and roaring. And as always, go Tigers!